and welcome to episode number 3 of the Gentle Business Revolution podcast, the show where we talk about marketing your business by disrupting the current marketing paradigm. I'm Sarah Croce, I'm your host here, and you know that you're in the right place if you are a heart-centered entrepreneur who feels anxiety around marketing your business, or you are an entrepreneur who is fed up with the traditional marketing model and are ready for a paradigm shift. Maybe you've noticed that today's episode had a nice intro music where the previous ones didn't. I forgot to tell you about that. Well, actually, if you are a regular listener to the show, so the show that I had before, the Introvert Biz Growth podcast, you already know that my solo episodes, I call them the Muse episodes, never had intro or outro music. That's because I want to keep things simple for those episodes. I want to keep them timely and therefore don't have them edited. But my interview episodes, like this one, is edited by Tim and his team, and it does have all the bells and whistles. So today's episode is all about integrity, which fits into the second P of the mandala for conscious marketing, the personal power P. And to discuss this topic of integrity, I have invited my friend Georgiana Kovell. Georgiana is an international marketing and sales strategist, coach, author, and speaker who sees herself as a catalyst for massive change, empowering women entrepreneurs all around the world to play a bigger game, achieve their soul-stirring goals, earn more money more quickly, and create a life they adore. For years, she worked for a world-renowned personal development company, Landmark Worldwide. She led trainings and seminars and helped launch a performance coaching division, all to help thousands of people reach their full potential. Georgiana is a serial entrepreneur with her first business at 16, braiding horses, manes, and tails on the show circuit. She brings her 30-plus years of personal development, spiritual seeking, and business endeavors and extensive business training to everything she does. She's on a mission to end entrepreneurial poverty and to help women reach that tipping point, one empowered woman at a time. It's for us all to be the change our world needs. Now, as heart-centered entrepreneurs, I think you will really appreciate this conversation. And just to make sure, this applies to men and women because my show is definitely addressing both sexes. Now, integrity has always been a big theme for me and a big reason why I couldn't do marketing the old way anymore, even if it worked to some extent. I just felt out of integrity using fear-based techniques, all these pushy and bro marketing techniques to get people to buy. And I talk about that in detail in the Gentle Business Manifesto. So while you listen to today's episode, and if you don't have it already, why don't you go over quickly to thegentlebusinessrevolution.com and download the manifesto so that you can read it later. There's no opt-in, just a PDF you can download instantly to your phone while you're walking in the woods or working out at the gym or whatever you're doing while listening to this show. So without further ado, let's hear it from Georgiana, who specializes in this topic of integrity. Hey, Georgiana, how are you doing today?
I am excellent. Thank you.
Awesome. I'm so glad to have you on my newly rebranded podcast. And we've done this once before for the Anxiety-Free Marketing, where you came in and talked about integrity for the second beta round. So I'm so excited to share this with my podcast listeners now. So I want to start with you and kind of your story and, what got you into integrity and why that has played such a big role in your life.
Yeah. Well, first off, thank you so much, Sarah, for having me here. This is one of my favorite topics. And, really how I got into this, I've been deep into personal development pretty much my whole life. It started, my dad was a big proponent. And at the time when I was a teenager and he's pushing all these tapes of, Think and Grow Rich and, As a Man Thinketh and all these different personal development, as a teenager, I was like, no, I don't want to do it. My dad is telling me to do it. No. But it ended up being quite a foundation, maybe subconsciously. I'd never admit it then, but now it's personal development has been a really big part of my life. And I started doing work with an organization that integrity was something that was kind of the foundation of everything they did. It was Werner Erhard started it back in the 1970s as EST, and it grew into Landmark worldwide as it is today. But one of the founding principles that Werner talks about is integrity. And throughout the years, it's been the cornerstone of my life that has impacted my performance in my business, my performance in my life, and just really created workability. So it's just been a natural conversation. And listen, I've tried to live my life without dealing with integrity in this way, which, we'll be talking about more, but I don't want to leave your listeners that I didn't have integrity at all. But it's in this way, as this is defined, as you'll hear later, and it's been a real powerful cornerstone in the workability and performance in my life.
I heard you tell the story before that you said, you were out of integrity and nothing worked anymore, and you brought integrity back into your life and things just happened. Things just fell into place and your business picked back up. And I want to really you to share this with our listeners, because it's kind of hard. It's kind of a concept that's hard to grasp, to understand. Can you take us really into this idea? Well, what were you doing where you felt like you were out of integrity?
Yeah. Well, first, it's hard to kind of go too much into that without saying what integrity is. But
let's start with defining it. Maybe that helps.
Yeah. So integrity is, first off, without integrity, nothing works. And, we can see that through all kinds of examples in life. But integrity, and what I mean here and what I'm talking about, is being your word and operating from an empowering context. So, what do I mean by your word? It's, what you say, like what comes out of your mouth, and what you say you're going to do, doing it on time, doing what you know to do and doing it on time. And also what's expected of you. Sometimes there's things that are expected of you. It's a word that you've given about who you are, and then there's particular things that would be expected of you. And also just what you say is so, that you're not gossiping. We've heard a lot about gossip and stuff in the world, and also what you stand for. So, and then there's morals and ethics and, legal, following the law, right? So if that's the brief, and operating from an empowering context, just a little bit about that, that's just, having nice things to say about yourself and what you're doing, that you're not in a disempowering conversation about everything that you're doing and yourself and so forth. So that would lack integrity too. So as the definition, very briefly, I came to a point in my life when I had tried to throw out integrity, for a lot of different reasons, but I just didn't have my attention on it. I've always been somebody who's tried to get by with just cutting corners a little bit, trying to get by, getting through something a little bit quicker, maybe missing a step, it's putting things together. I don't follow the directions, and sometimes I'll skip well, that doesn't look that important, I'll just do this, right? So, but that was kind of the theme of my life. And it was the way that integrity works is when you start to operate with no integrity, it's the experience of spiraling out of control. So, we get away with it for a little while, but over time, it's the experience of spiraling out of control. And that's where I was. My business was flat, and maybe even going backwards. And I was unhappy. And things just weren't working. It was a struggle every day and not the kind of struggle as a business owner that you have. Sometimes it's a struggle, but like it was a struggle to get out of bed and get stuff done. I couldn't see, as they say, the forest through the trees. I was struggling and I was unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to a friend of mine and we got into integrity. So I really started to go through my life and my business where I had been operating without integrity, starting from an empowering context, but putting those things back in and doing the things that I knew to do. And it was a very short time that my experience of myself, my joy, my happiness, and my results in my business turned around like within a few days. And, the experience is kind of like it's magic and miraculous even. So anyway, that it really got me grounded back into integrity, and why it's so important for me to share it now is because this is proven to me over and over and over again that it works and it makes a difference. But also sharing it with other people allows it to stay real in my life.
Right.
Because I want to continue with those magic and miracles.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think integrity is one of these words like authenticity, right? That we kind of just throw around lightly without maybe really understanding what it means. And when I first heard you talk about that, I realized that was kind of my case. I thought integrity meant this one thing. And then when you said all these things about, you can never be 100% in integrity, and integrity is this mountain without the top. I'm like, wait a minute, but that doesn't make sense to me. And what I realized is that I looked at integrity as morality, right? And I think that's kind of a common perception of integrity. Could you talk about that?
Well, in the dictionary, when you look up integrity, you'll find morality.
Right.
And when you look up morality, you'll find integrity. So it's a little confusing for people. And I think for most people, if you were to talk, most people will say, of course, I have integrity.
Yeah.
Like integrity is something that's good.
Right.
But integrity is really, and this is one of the definitions, and this is kind of the definition that we use, is the quality or state of being complete, unbroken condition, wholeness in its entirety. If a bicycle wheel has integrity, all the spokes are there, you say it has integrity, right? It's unbroken. But the moment that things, the spokes start to break away, it will sustain for a while, and the integrity is going out and out and out. But over time, it will collapse and the integrity will be out. And that's a really great metaphor, because human beings try and do that. We try and get away with not doing everything as it's meant to be done, or cutting corners as I did, or just kind of being late, saying you're going to be somewhere at 2:00 and, thinking 2:05, 2:10 is okay. We try and get away with all this, but there's always a breakdown over time.
I think an example I shared with you a couple of months ago is this idea of my marketing program, right? That's now called Anxiety-Free Marketing. And when I first was playing with the title, I thought I was going to call it Marketing with Integrity, because this word integrity has always been important to me as well, but I didn't realize that it could come over as a moral lesson. Kind of like when people reacted strangely to it. They said, well, why are you calling it marketing with integrity? Are you assuming that I'm not marketing with integrity right now? So that's when I really had this aha moment going, oh, okay. So it does come over as kind of like this, raised finger. Oh, you're not doing it right. So I'm glad I changed the title after. So tell us more about this concept that we can never be 100% in integrity? Why is that?
Well, you said something about it earlier, that integrity is a mountain without a top.
Mm-hmm.
But, I think if integrity is your word and operating from an empowering context, it's honoring your word. Anybody who's living any kind of big life, you're giving your word to a lot of things all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You're giving your word to who you are in your business. You're giving your word to your clients. You're giving to your word for the stand or the vision that you are for your business and your world. And, sometimes something's going to happen where you're not acting consistent with that, or you didn't do something that you said you were going to do. And, nobody is perfect. There is absolutely no way. I used to say, the only way you could have integrity 100% of the time is if you gave your word to sitting on the sofa and eating bonbons all day. But, as a human being, that lacks integrity. So it's kind of, really, although you're not always going to keep your word, you can always bring honor to your word. So, I can hear your listeners already saying, well, wait a second, you tell me I need to keep my word, but now you're telling me I'm never going to always keep my word. So what the heck, right?
Mm-hmm.
So bringing honor to your word is, if you say you're going to be somewhere at 2:00 and you're at 2:10, you're like calling, you're letting people know, I said I was going to be there at 2 and I'm not going to be there at 2, or letting them know, listen, acknowledging, I said I was going to be there at 2 and I'm here at 2:10 and I'm sorry if that's had any impact on you. Just
right.
Acknowledging. Sometimes it doesn't, but we walk around assuming all these things, and it creates a way in which people listen to you. I mean, everybody probably has a friend that is always going to be late.
Yes. And I don't think they do it on purpose, but yeah, it does.
No, but that's just one thing around being late. But if we continue to operate in our lives like a little bit of lack of integrity, that's just a symptom of, that for them. We all have a little bit something, but then people start to listen to you like that. Like you are that way, or that's who you are, or you can't be counted on. And
right.
Listen, if you go around can't be counted on for enough things, then who you become is somebody that can't be counted on.
Yeah, and what comes up for me as well, so it's you can't be counted on, you can't be trusted, right? And so that in marketing, because if we say we honor our word, everything that we communicate, that we put into our marketing materials, into our sales pages and all of that, well, you actually have to keep that word. Whatever you're saying in any written or oral communication, you have to do what's expected, what you said, even what's not stated but expected, because people hire you as the expert, right? So it's not even in writing, but you can expect that someone who says they know LinkedIn, they actually know how to use hashtags on LinkedIn. I'm giving a silly example, but just like whatever you put out there, you need to then be able to keep that word. So in marketing, that's super important, because I do think that we do actually see a lot of marketing where we can't trust anymore, because the promises are so big that we on the receiving end think, wow, there's a lack of integrity, because I cannot actually believe that they can keep their promises.
Yeah. Well, it's everything that you said. And, if we bring it down to its simplest form, right, we do business with people that we know, like, and trust.
Right.
And in the marketing message, like what you're talking about, if we can't trust that what people are saying is, what they're going to bring forth, or we can't quite get it, because sometimes there's just an energy around the integrity of something, that people can feel it. Like, you've read different marketing or maybe blogs or whatever it is in business where you're like, I just can't quite get that. Like there's something not right.
Mm-hmm.
We all have that kind of instinct or that intuition. And, I say that it all has to do with the energy that this person's putting out, whether they're, who they are in the world, where they are with their integrity, let's just put it away. If they're cutting corners enough, it impacts the energy around everything that we do.
Yeah, no, totally. I think, I don't know if it's this general feeling that I'm getting that people are paying more attention to that, or if it's just the fact that we've been in this online marketing jungle for enough time that people start to see through it, and they're kind of, we just immediately know, yes, there's integrity, or no, there's no integrity, and this is just marketing talk, right?
Yeah, well, it's you said it earlier, right? It's part of the authenticity, which is such a hot button now, but that comes in too, because your authentic self is somebody who brings honor to the word that they are. So it's kind of all wrapped in together.
Mm-hmm. I always ask the guest to share a meaningful quote, and yours is the one from Werner Erhard. Could you read that and then comment on it?
Absolutely. So this is absolutely one of my most favorite quotes. It's on responsibility by Werner Erhard that he wrote. I don't even know when he wrote it, and this is how it is. So responsibility begins with the willingness to take the stand that one is cause in the matter of one's life. It's a declaration, not an assertion. It's a context from which one chooses to live. And responsibility is not a burden, fault, praise, blame, credit, shame, or guilt. In responsibility, there is no evaluation of good or bad, right or wrong. There is simply what's so, and the stand you choose to take on what's so. Being responsible starts with the willingness to deal with a situation from the view of life that you are the generator of what you do, what you have, and what you are. That is not the truth. It's a place to stand. So no one can make you responsible, nor can you impose responsibility on another. It's a grace you give yourself. An empowering context that leaves you with a say in the matter of life. Werner Erhard. And listen, we could have a whole podcast just on this.
A lot to unpack, right?
There's a lot to unpack in this. But, if we just started with the willingness, right? If you're just willing to take the stand that everything that's happening in your life, you can be responsible for. Like you're the cause and the matter of what's happening in your life. Not like a place to, he says in here, a blame or a burden, right? But just a place to stand like, wow, okay, that's happening. Let's just look. What did I do or didn't do that had that go that way? It's a place of responsibility to have power. And it really starts. The other part is starting with the willingness to deal with a situation from the view of life that you're the generator of what you do, what you have, and what you are. And it's such a powerful place because in the word, we've all heard this, responsibility. So you have the ability to respond. It's never being the victim. It's taking each and every situation and things that happen in our life and going, okay, wow, what can I be responsible for here? And I'll just say, this is a quick example. Many years ago when I was married, my husband had an infidelity. And for most people, you could look at that and you would say, wow, it was his fault, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes it depends on where you're standing, that can be an argument for people. But, most women could stand on my say and say, yes, it was his fault and blah, 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 right? But, there's no power in that. There's just being a victim to something that someone did. But when I started to be responsible for whatever I did or didn't do, that had it be okay for him to have an affair, to have that infidelity, I took all my power back.
Right.
And it's a place where you can learn. And it's not necessarily the truth. You never know the truth about things and why things happen. You never know. But you can take the stand and learn from it and gain power from it. And hopefully we just become better people out of being responsible.
Yeah. Again, there's so much to this responsibility piece. And I love the example you gave. And I think maybe another example in business, again, it has to do with keeping your word, because responsibility means you are responsible for, what promises you're making in the marketing context. And then if you are not keeping those promises, well, it's your responsibility to then honor your word and, maybe be transparent that you don't have the answer to this specific thing, but you'll find out. And so that's where it has to do with integrity, right? They're actually very related, right? Because the other thing that I noticed is that responsibility has the same kind of double sense almost, where he says in the quote, it's not blame, where usually we use it in that context saying, yeah, but it's your responsibility, right?
Yeah.
We use it as something bad, where integrity, we use it as something good. So it's funny how both words have this made up sense that we made up, but the word doesn't actually necessarily mean that.
Yeah, it's an interesting kind of back and forth that integrity and responsibility, I mean, they really go hand in hand. They, they are the back and the front of the hand. They're just different things, but they still are the hand. But it's such a powerful place to be, whenever in business, for instance, I'm a coach. And so I work with clients. And whenever I have a client that isn't quite having the results that I think they should be having, or there's just something, sometimes you can feel like something's a little off, I always go to look at, where did the integrity go out? And that really can be looking from, okay, did I have a thought about this client that, it wasn't going to work out, or, they're difficult, or, like it could be the context in which I'm coaching the client inside of, or where did I not do something that I knew to do, or, sometimes, especially as a coach, there's the not saying things that you know to say because you don't want to be too rough or hard or, whatever that is. So, all that lacks integrity. And if I can look at where and be responsible for where the integrity of the relationship went out, it's so powerful to be able to turn the ship around with a client just from looking at where did the integrity go out and what can I be responsible for.
Yeah, I love that. Another line, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I heard you say that you could not be 100% in integrity all the time, but you can always be 100% responsible. Is that correct?
I don't think that I've said that, but maybe I did. I don't know. But
on another call, it wasn't today.
I think that, you're never going to be 100% integrity. Maybe there's a moment in time, but just a moment, because, like we said earlier, it's a mountain without top. You're always going to be giving your word to stuff, and, that's never going to end. Responsibility, you can always be responsible for operating with integrity, or your integrity going out, or, your life and the context in which you're living and all that. Always can be responsible.
Yeah.
I don't know that we're always responsible, though, for sure.
That's true, but I think you could be. Sometimes, I guess, it's similar to integrity, but if you're not in the integrity because you're always learning, I think that's the point with integrity and there not being a top, is you're always learning, and developing in your own life and all of that, but you can always be responsible for the current state or the current situation. So
yeah,
maybe that's
yes.
what it is.
And, part of responsibility, as Werner says in here, begins with just the willingness to take the stand that one's caused in the matter of one's life. So, yeah, inside of that, you can 100% always be willing to take that stand. So, yeah, it's great.
This has been great, and we're coming to the end, but I have 2 more questions. One that I always ask my guests, and you tell me if this is the right way to actually formulate this question, because what I used to ask is, how does marketing with integrity look like to you? So in this context, does that come over as marketing with integrity being something good, or since I'm saying look like to you, does that make sense and it's neutral?
Well, I think there's just a way in which to ask that is, what is integrity in marketing? What
is integrity in marketing for you?
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm.
Yes. So for me, it really is, first off, bringing an empowering context to everything. So when I give my word, when I'm creating the copy, for lack of for the copy, or what I say, the promises of whatever I'm doing, right? I actually have to look and bring forward like the authenticness of who I am and what I can promise. And I take that promise in my marketing very seriously.
Right.
So it's not fluff. And I have to then look at and be responsible for, how am I going to deliver on that promise that I've created in my marketing.
Right.
So it's just a continuation of me. Does it represent who I am in the world and who I want represented in the world?
I like that. So without even using the buzzword authenticity, you said it very well. It's like a continuation of me. So it's, your values, everything you stand for, and your, integrity. And that's what comes out in your marketing, because you want to be 100% responsible for what you're putting out there and the promises and the words you're sharing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. Thank you so much for being here, Georgiana, and sharing this with my listeners. I always ask the very last question. It's kind of more of a woo-woo question. What are you grateful for today or this week?
Oh gosh, I'm so grateful for the community in which I get to play in. It's the people like yourself and my online community, the people around the world, my clients, and just that we're so grateful that we live in a time where we can have these kinds of conversations to not only grow and develop ourselves, but to impact the world, hopefully in some small way, that at some point we reach a tipping point of people operating from love and gratitude, that we can change the world.
Beautiful. And I'm so grateful for you doing that, with your, what is it, Millions of Women Strong, right?
Yes.
We're running out of time, but I want you to share about this. So tell us real quick what that is all about.
Yeah, Millions of Women Strong, it started as a Facebook group. Well, it's still there. So, any of your listeners can join. It's Millions of Women Strong group. You can just search it out. But it really is a place where positive people come to share. Our values are building relationships, collaboration, education, and celebration. So we have a lot of exciting things coming up. But first step may be just for your listeners, if they care to join our Facebook group, you can go to our website, millionsofwomenstrong.com. But this is what really has integrity for me. It really makes a declaration that we stand together, we are strong, our collaboration and building relationships is going to make a difference in the world.
Wonderful. Yeah, I'll definitely put the links in the show notes. Please check it out. And again, thank you so much, Georgiana, for sharing this with the listeners of the Gentle Business Revolution podcast. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you, Sarah.
So what do you think? Does this conversation of integrity resonate with you? Are you also at the point where everything you do needs to be in integrity, even if that means that it might not sell as well? Let me give you an example. When a potential client asks me how fast they can expect results on LinkedIn, I usually tell them the honest truth, even if that means that I might not get that client. And the honest truth is that it takes time to position yourself as an expert and get people to know, like, and trust you. But people don't usually like to hear that. They want results now. They want the quick fix right now. They need clients. So yeah, I could make up some BS about getting clients in 2 weeks, but I refuse to because I wouldn't feel in integrity. That's really how strongly I feel about integrity, and that's why integrity needs to go into our marketing as well. Again, if you haven't seen the Gentle Business Manifesto yet, I invite you to download it without opt-in at thegentlebusinessrevolution.com. It definitely addresses that topic of integrity as well. So that's it for this episode of the Gentle Business Revolution. Please find the show notes of this episode with all the links and everything we mention at sarahsantacroce.com/GBR3, GBR standing for Gentle Business Revolution, so /GBR3. And please also check out Georgiana's website at Georgiana Kovell, that's KOVELL.com. And next week I'll be addressing the third P, which stands for people, and we'll talk about the question why people buy. So I hope you'll join me on this journey to a kinder marketing paradigm. Please invite your friends to join us by sharing this episode or the Gentle Business Manifesto with them. Both can be found at thegentlebusinessrevolution.com. Let's be the change we want to see in the world. Thanks for joining me.